Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about women's sports, which I know all of you love. But some of the women's sports are the ones we follow that we value dearly. First, I saw a story recently about a 13-year-old girl in Mongolia who excels at the sport of falconry, sending her trained eagle out to hunt. So girls, you can do anything. But on a broader note, when we talk about credibility, Stephen M.R. Covey has a book called The Speed of Trust. And he talks about the elements of trust and what goes into it. And he visualizes a tree. You have the roots and the trunk, which form the foundation. And then you have the branches and the fruit, which are obviously the results. So at the bottom are integrity and intent. Being who you say you are and acting with good intent at all times. In other words, having character. And at the top are competence and performance. It's the execution that counts. And today we saw a young lady, A'ja Wilson, sign with the University of South Carolina, the top female recruit, probably one of the top college players next year. She's 18 years old, 6'5", a wing player who can take the ball to the hoop, block shots, rebound. She can do everything. And she was one whale that Gino Auriemma couldn't land.
No, he kind of knew that. I go into the UCONN site all the time because, as you know, I'm a huge UCONN women's basketball fan. They're my number one team out of all teams. But I kind of knew it. Last week I went on to the site and you knew Auriemma had a feeling that she wasn't going to be going to UCONN. He just says, I usually know when a player is going to be coming. But she is so talented. She played on the U.S. national team with Brianna Stewart, who's going to be a junior next year at UCONN. She was the most valuable player in the Final Four 2 years in a row. UCONN, of course, went undefeated this year, 40-0, beat Notre Dame, who at that time was 37-0 in the final game. But she was going to be huge because if UCONN got her, they would have won the next 4 years. With the team they have coming back the next 2 years, the players, the talent they have coming in. But I'm kind of glad she went to South Carolina because you want rivalries, you want great teams to go up against. Now South Carolina, just so people that don't know, they were the number 4 seed in the tournament this year, number 1 in their bracket, and they lost to North Carolina in the Elite 8. North Carolina is a very strong team too. And they have 9 top scorers coming back. So now they have A'ja Wilson, and they have a number 7 pick who's also 6'4" coming in.
Well, it's good to have these rivalries. I read recently that supposedly the top women's recruiting class went to UCLA. Now, UCLA has not been a powerhouse on the West Coast. It's always been Stanford. So we'll see how that works out. But it should be a wonderful rivalry that develops. I don't think there's animosity between the women's coach at South Carolina, who's Dawn Staley, former Olympian, outstanding player at Virginia, and Auriemma. For example, the depth of the unhappiness between Pat Summitt at Tennessee and Auriemma was legendary. They just really couldn't stand each other. But overall, women's college sports have come a long way.
Oh yeah, and UConn has been a big part of it. And Auriemma, the thing with Pat Summitt is Pat Summitt saw someone who's a threat to her, winning championships, beating her out on the best players in the country, and she's hard-nosed. She was a hard-nosed
right.
coach.
And Auriemma has a different approach. He doesn't say, you come to us and we're going to make you an All-American or you're going to start. He says, you're going to get an opportunity to perform. Supposedly, you go to Tennessee, you walk into the arena, they have a jersey with your name on it. They have the fan board, jumbotron with your picture and, highlights from your career and stuff like that. That's a pretty big attraction for a young person.
But you know what it comes down to, Ron? You know how we say to girls that we coach, if you love the sport, if you love playing basketball, you're going to love playing on this team. If you don't love it, you may not like it because we push and push and push. Well, that's what the great players want to play for Auriemma because they know he's going to push them to become the best they can be. He's going to do everything he can.
I remember reading an article about Kevin Durant, and it says, when he wakes up in the morning, he says, what am I going to do to get better today? And obviously, he's probably going to be the MVP in the NBA this year, had a terrific season. Doesn't mean he's going to win a championship this year. But as a player, a young person, it's hard to develop that kind of mentality, the relentlessness that every day you want to become the best at what you are. And there are people, probably the great Iowa, was it Iowa State? I think Dan Gable, the wrestler, he was just incredibly focused on being the greatest wrestler ever, and he's pretty much universally accepted as being the best wrestler in real wrestling, not wrestling. But how many young people have that kind of dedication that they're willing to put that effort out day after day after day? The story about Larry Bird shooting 500 free throws before breakfast, or Kobe Bryant taking 1,000 shots a day for 100 days each summer. That's why these guys are great.
Well, I told you about the drills UConn does. He drives, Oriema has them do them until, with the boys, going up against the boys, until they get it right. Footwork, you know how big we are in footwork and balance and everything else in basketball. They work on that constantly, and he drills them and drills them and drills them. I mean, he takes it so serious where he doesn't let 2 minutes go by without making sure that he's doing something to make the girls better, and they know that he's doing everything he can to make them better. But one thing I want to say, and I really believe this, I believe the best brand of basketball is women's basketball over men's basketball. You see it at UConn, no one executes the game better than UConn does. Pro basketball, men's, college basketball, men's. You compare that, you watch UConn girls, women, execute the game of basketball. They execute it better than the pros execute it because they can't rely on dunks, Ron. They can't rely on outrunning teams constantly. They play that up-tempo game, but it's all execution, cutting, being in the right spot at all times.
Well, you can argue a couple things for that. Women have to be fundamentally sound because the game is played below the rim. They don't rely as much on athleticism. But second of all, it's different than in college where so many players leave early. Before the draft, you wondered about, well, is Wiggins going to stay? Is Parker going to stay? Is Embiid going to stay? Basically, everybody's going. Everybody is coming out of the woodwork announcing they're going into the NBA draft. And a lot of our watchers may feel that, oh, these are just dumb jocks. They show up. They have great athleticism. The great players are great technicians. They learn how to do everything in a way to create separation so they have, as Heinsohn would say, the blue sky, and they can make things happen. Do I expect a guy like Wiggins or Parker to come out and average 25 points a game and 8 assists? And no, I think they may struggle when they come out.
Yeah, here's another thing, though. You're a fan, right? You're a fan of Duke or Kentucky or Kansas, and you're seeing the players come in for 1 year and then leaving. You can't get attached to that. And again, I know I keep talking about UConn. Stephanie Dolson, the center, unbelievable this year. I saw her as a freshman, out of shape, 6'5", doughy, couldn't run up and down the court. And Oriema used to get on her, and she got better and better. This year, she was the best center in women's college basketball. She was number 6 pick in the draft by Washington. And for her to be the number 6 pick in the draft, to see where she came from as a freshman and how she stuck with it and how much she loved playing with UConn and worked. I mean, you see that, and then you see Parker and those guys coming out after 1 year.
Well, I'm totally conflicted about a program like Kentucky. If it were so easy, everybody could just get freshmen and go to the Final Four. It's not that easy. So, yeah, I think Calipari's kind of slimy, but he does get his players trained up. The team improved a lot. Certainly you have Randall's going to be a top 5 or 6 pick. Cauley Stein will probably go in the first round as a center. I don't know what the Harrison brothers intend.
They'll go late if they do.
Yeah, I mean,
if they come out. I wouldn't come out if I were them.
Yeah, I think they have a chance to be better players if they hang around, but you still have a high quality level of basketball. But a team like Wichita State, really good, experienced team, lost to Kentucky. They had too much athleticism. They made too many plays. Great basketball game. But in the final game, it was a terrific game. Good to see a local kid, Shabazz Napier, star. The other kid that impressed me was Ryan Boatwright. Boy, talk about getting separations on the step back And the third thing is, as Calipari said, you can't put them at the free throw line. They don't miss. You foul
Yeah,
them.
but we'll want it for them. We knew it going into the game. We knew the Harrison brothers weren't going to be able to handle the pressure from UConn.
It was a great defense.
And they weren't going to be able to run their offense. You saw the game before, the way UConn played against Michigan. Well, the game they had against Michigan State 2 games before that great game. I mean, UConn just totally destroyed Florida's guards. Florida had good guards. They couldn't run their offense. So you knew going in that game. I said, if UConn can not control the boards, but be in the game, don't let Kentucky totally dominate them on the boards.
Right.
There was no way, because you knew the UConn guys were going to dominate the Harrison brothers. You just knew it, the way they played defense.
Yeah, they held Randall down, and Napier and Boatwright are lightning quick. Napier is going to be a first-round pick, I'm sure.
Could be in the Celtics.
Oh, we can
18 pick.
We can only wonder. Now, we'll get to the Celtics later, but it's a good example of how great man-to-man defense works. You get pressure on the ball. That means that the ball isn't entered into the post area to the guys like Randall where they want it. They can get the ball in, but not where they want it. It makes a big difference sometimes a few feet away from the basket. If you watch Bill Walton's game where he got 44 points, I don't think he made one shot more than 5 feet away because Greg Lee kept getting him the ball in premium scoring position, and he was a great finisher. So UConn just totally denied that stuff on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about defense, defense, defense. What do we tell our kids, the girls? If you're going to be a great team, you've got to be great defensively.
And it all starts with pressure on the ball.
But it's funny too, Ron, when I'm watching, it seems like everything we're talking about. I mean, not to get, with the girls, you see it you saw it in college basketball. You saw it with UConn. Everything we preach, we've been preaching for years, happened in the UConn game in the Final Four, both games.
Well, some people say you don't need a philosophy to be a basketball coach. I disagree. First of all, there's no great team that has a bad defense in any sport. So you need to have a way to make the other team have poor quality shots and only get one shot. So it all starts with pressure on the ball, keeping the ball out of the paint, and contesting shots without fouling. Then you have to be able to rebound the ball defensively, which means blocking out. All that is work. In any job, 20% of the job is not fun. I don't care how much you love your job, 20% of the job is not fun, whether it's paperwork or blocking out or fighting through screens or taking charges. Those things are not fun, but they're essential to playing winning basketball. The other thing is you need to set goals. You have to, for example, you might say, we're not going to allow more than 12 points in a quarter, ever. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be successful. You're going to say, we're not going to allow more than 6 points in a game on transition hoops. And we've seen a lot of basketball games where teams just scored at will in transition. Well, that doesn't just happen. It happens because you don't have transition defense. The Celtics, for all their flaws, were good at transition defense this year.
You look at it, Ron, and we talk about it, and, my pet peeve, the thing that really gets me aggravated, are teams in youth sports that play zones. Now, here it is. Here's the best example. You watch the UConn, the way they play defense on the ball. What do we teach? What do we teach our last group that are freshmen this year? We didn't play a zone once in the 4 years that we had them. Not one minute did they play zone. They played on the ball, man-to-man defense. So what happens with that group? As 8th graders, not entering their freshman class yet, as 8th graders, we put them in a AAU varsity basketball league, play strictly man-to-man, shut down the best high school players because these girls understood as a team how to play man-to-man defense on the ball, covering, denying penetration, rotation, understood it clearly. Every player on the team, shutting down teams. No one could get to the hoop. Most of the games, teams like Peabody, when we played at the end of the year, and Bill Ricker couldn't get to the hoop. They couldn't they couldn't drive to the hoop because of the defense. You saw it in that summer as 8th graders who were going to be freshmen. Because we didn't play zone, we stuck to man-to-man. These teams, I'm telling you, I was thinking about this today, Ron, before, thinking about the show. I'm saying, what really bothers me? No one takes it serious enough. No one really takes it serious enough. You have youth sports where you have coaches that are idiots coaching these kids that only care about winning. I'll put my team in a zone 99% of the time just to shut that team down. I don't care about coaching these girls. That's what aggravates me. And you see it constantly. All they're worrying about is winning and not teaching. It's happening way too much. And the thing that bothers me, and then they get into high school, and sometimes if they've gotten half decent coaching, there goes the coaching. They're not getting any coaching. So the whole progression stops. There's a major problem I've seen. You know, people look at me like I'm crazy. There's a big time problem in youth sports and in high school because no one cares enough about having the best talent working with these kids. And you see it all the time. You have to see it. I mean, and it proves it right there with UConn. They won the title, the boys, because of the great defense, and those kids knew how to play the defense, and that's why they won it. That's simple.
Well, you don't have to have an encyclopedic knowledge of every aspect of basketball to be a successful teacher, but similarly, if you have an encyclopedic knowledge, but you can't teach, then your players aren't going to get better. And you need to have players who are really committed and want to get better. And for example, in volleyball, it's been so successful in Melrose. The players experience success, so now they're all playing in the off season, or many of the players are playing in the off season. They're very happy with the program, and it takes their focus or interest off of other sports, which sometimes leads to less success there. But why does that happen? Well, it's because you don't make it enough fun, but fun in a learning, successful experience.
Yeah, and that's an excuse too, because what happened here is Coach Kelly has had powerhouses since our girls played. When he's had powerhouses, and the girls love playing volleyball. It's a team sport. When we were talking about women's sports and girls sports earlier, there's nothing better than the Melrose volleyball, the way they execute the game. I mean, they just have talent. You know how you have to have a great back row, you have to have a great front row, you have to have a great setter, and it all works together. If you don't have a great front row, but you have a great setter and back row, it's not going to work.
Well, what's better than being able to go to the state championship, having a lot of support from your hometown, noisy crowd, wonderful environment? It's terrific. You know,
Right.
it's not like some of the games we saw this year in different sports. You know, it's empty house, no enthusiasm. It's tough for the players to play their best under those circumstances.
And you look at it, right? You look at the volleyball program again. When they won it 2 years ago, the state championship, they had the powerhouse team. Now they lose their front line, basically. Some of their back row, a couple of real good players. What happens? They go up against Bishop Fenwick and lose in the Division II North. You know, Bishop Fenwick's front row had a lot more experience than Melrose, but Melrose came on and came on. Guess what's going to happen this year? I guarantee Melrose will be in the Final Four. I know they're going to be in the Final Four, and I think this year they can win the state championship again, because now they're going to have a tremendous front row, all the experience they got. They still have their setter back. Nolan's going to be back at setter. You know, their back row, they have a young back row, but they have some of the players back. They potentially could win the states, but they'll definitely go to the Final Four. Bishop Fenwick had their one great year. Now Melrose is back. They're going to be dominant again over them. So, I mean, Melrose, the kids just really work hard. They have a great program. Kids are getting better and better every year. They're working from earlier ages. When our kids played, they didn't start till they were freshmen. Now they're starting when they're before middle school.
Well, it's like Patino's book, Success is a Choice. It doesn't happen by accident. You need a well-designed program. You need a lot of enthusiasm. You need dedication and sacrifice from the families and the players. It's expensive because they play off season, they travel, they have bigger health expenses because kids get hurt. They have to belong to gyms, they do personal training. They make a lot of effort that you don't always see. You just see the final product and you say, wow, that's just amazing. How does that happen?
Yeah, and people don't realize, I mean, forget basketball. I mean, who we've been working with over the years. Look at Jim Torpy and Mate. Look what they've done with the lacrosse program.
Right.
Look how hard they've worked with them, and look what's happening now. Lacrosse program's getting stronger and stronger. It's not stronger and stronger because of the high school coaching, although the coaching, I guess, is pretty good. If they didn't have the players coming up, what would they be? They'd be like they used to be.
Well, it's the same thing Pete Carroll would say. The best ally you can have in the world is a great high school coach, because the player gets to college, they already know how to play. So then you can refine the player and introduce your system.
Yeah, and just like the hockey program this year with those 8th graders. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? They had a great youth program, and they've been playing 80 games a year. That's why they're so strong. And then they get up to high school, And you just hope that they have the good coaching up there to keep the progression going.
Well, it sure looks like it. We'll be right back. Tonight for our sports conversation, we have special guest Lou Spagnola, and I'm going to call it my pet peeve session. My first pet peeve is the NCAA. They are rolling in dough. Just from the basketball contract alone, $10.8 billion. But in their inimitable fashion, they cry poor mouth, and their athletes like Shabazz Napier go to bed hungry. It's the NCAA version of the Hunger Games. But they understand how wrong they've been, so they're going to throw a few snacks the players' way so that, so they don't have to go to bed hungry anymore.
What kind of, did they give any idea? What are they going to give them? Like some hummus and, did they give any idea what they're going to give them?
No, they didn't say whether they're going to have a dedicated automat machine in the dorm so they can push a button that says basketball player. Nowadays, they probably have fingerprint ID. Okay, it's Shabazz. We can give him a hot dog.
But I don't understand how they do it, because what I read is that you couldn't get a snack. They wouldn't pay for snacks. You get your 3 meals and that's it. I thought they put money in a canteen or whatever, and you work it off of there. If you go over a little, you go over a little. But they're really ridiculous. I mean, they're too adamant about being strict in all regards.
I don't understand is, and this is all of college sports. Look at college football. There's 100,000 people at a college football game, and the money generated, where does it go? I know they're not charging for tickets with pros. You pay to see the pros, but come on, if you can get 100,000 people to a football game or these basketball, the Final Four. I mean, is there anything more exciting? The Sweet 16. And then you get to those Final Four games. I mean, how much national attention is on that?
They said at the arena that it was over 70,000 tickets. And a guy was 80 yards away from the court and he was paying $180 for a ticket. So somebody who's close up must be paying $500. So they must be raising $30-40 million for that game.
Where does it go?
Another thing they should do, they should have the athletic department, the athletic directors in charge for extras. Okay, the extras. He needs a new sweatshirt. I guess you can get all the equipment you need, but he needs this. You need, books or whatever. I guess they can pay for all the books he needs. But for food, okay, these are extras, okay? So we spent an extra $15 today on a couple of players, and you report it, and that's it.
Well, at some programs, like Oklahoma State, as was documented, the alumni would come in and they give you a bag lunch. You open up the bag and it's full of cash. So then you can understand that those players feel respected. They feel appreciated.
Nothing wrong with a little salad in your diet.
Or if you get a new pair of socks, you never know, there might be a couple $100 in there. But seriously, having been on the bench on a Division I baseball team, it's not fun to spend 30 hours a week at practice, not necessarily playing, when you're also a serious student, not somebody who was going to, probably not make it through school, and then be told by the coach, why are you taking labs in the afternoon, when we have practice in the afternoon, that it's not compatible to take chemistry lab with play baseball. Well, excuse me, it's Harvard. Don't people understand that? But if you're the coach, you just want to win. You don't really care about the kids.
Well, it depends what college you're going to. I mean, if you're going to, Miami, for instance, I mean, you're probably not there to earn a 4-year degree. Although, if you get a Miami degree, you're doing all right in the world. If you go to Harvard, chances are you're not going to Harvard to realize a football dream. Maybe you can make it. I know there's been players, Ivy League players, have gone on to great success. But, nowadays, I mean, it seems like it's the dumb jock story, so to speak, is to go to a big college and then go on so you can make millions in the pro sports. And then you got the rest of the people out there are just going, UMass, or there's plenty of good colleges around here, but doesn't have that athletic program.
Well, as far as major college sports go, you can name one player who came from an extremely affluent family, and that was Bill Bradley. His father was a banker, and I remember because his coach, Pete Carroll, said, I've never seen any player before or after him who was this good, who had money. It's always about being hungry and trying to get the money by becoming a professional basketball player.
And speaking of hunger, that was where we started out now, wasn't it?
It's true. Now the NCAA, it's not just that. Years ago, they constantly lowballed assistant coaches, and I believe there was a class action suit by the assistant coaches that they had to pay triple damages for because they colluded to keep salaries down. Now, I'm sure if you're the assistant coordinator at Alabama, offensive coordinator or something, you're making big money. But it's also because a school like Alabama, they admitted they made $50 million on football. That's not too shabby.
Where does the money go again? Do you wonder though? Is it cheap to go to college? Even if you're not into sports, you don't play. I mean, how much does it cost to get a degree? We know about Occupy Boston a few years ago. Even if you go to take a class, I mean, UMass, it's $750 a class, UMass Boston. If you just want to go to I need to take a math class, $750. The books are going to be $115.
Now, my next peeve is Tony Maserati. I'll just give you a few examples. First, he said when UConn broke the consecutive winning streak over 88 games that UCLA did, he says, well, it didn't matter because they were playing against other girls' teams. It's like, who were they supposed to be playing against? The Heat? Second of all, when Jackie Bradley struck out the first game of the year, he basically said, Bradley's lost all his confidence, his career's over. Tonight, he said, I'm a big Jackie Bradley guy. I don't know why Sizemore's playing ahead of Bradley.
Well, that's the talk shows. Maserati has changed his whole appearance and his whole thinking because now he's on a talk show. When he was a beat writer for the Red Sox, he was tremendous. I'd listen to him over anyone. He was so knowledgeable. Now, he knows who's listening to his shows. It's guys that don't like female sports. So when he knocks the female sports, 99% of the people listening to him agree with him. They don't want to hear anything about it. And then it's either that, there's one or two reasons why he knocked the UConn championship in Oriema. Because of the people that are listening to him and they're going to agree with him, or because he's friggin' completely ignorant to women's sports, which he is.
Well, I don't
it's
know.
both.
Even the stuff he knows about, I got to tell you, I did like his columns, but I think he's a total contrarian, and he just reminds me to throw a line out, John Kerry. I think he votes for it before he votes against it.
But when Dr. Senna, my son, told me about Maserati, I didn't hear it because I'm a huge UConn fan, women's basketball, over everybody. I mean, I love the Celtics, the Patriots, the Yankees, the Bruins. Believe it or not, the Yankees are not the Red Sox, but my number one program is the UConn women's team. I know everything about them since '95, since Rebecca Lobo played in that first championship team. I've watched every game they've had on TV, and it's the best program. For me, it's the best program, better than pro sports, better than college basketball, women's college basketball by far, to me. Yeah, it's like I can watch it and I'm entertained every time I watch UConn play.
Well, the other thing he said the other night, Napoli slides into second head first. I don't know why. Dislocates his ring finger on his left hand. Now, he says, well, you just pop it in and go back and play. Well, obviously, Maserati must have not played too recently, because if you have a dislocated finger, it doesn't feel better the next day. And last time I checked, although I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, you need the outer two fingers to grasp something. Now, some of these guys hold the bat where they've got the knob down, halfway up their hand. Maybe Napoli's like that. But even though he's in the lineup tonight, I'm not thinking he's hitting 3 home runs.
Well, I mean, it's not, everybody likes to think of baseball as not being a manly sport like football and hockey, but not for anything. Whatever your opinion may be on that, you do need to grip the bat, and if you want to properly throw, it's very hard to throw with a dislocated finger. It's not like football,
Well, look what happened to Pedroia last year. Pedroia had a tough time gripping the bat with it.
Don't
He
throw
threw his
everything.
wrist and his finger.
Well, he looks like he's still having trouble. I mean, he's a gamer. He goes out, plays hard. How can you not love Pedroia? But
Absolutely.
you can tell he's not the same guy right now.
I told you what his biggest problem has been for the last 3 years, and no one listens to me.
Sliding in head first.
No, he's too far away from the plate.
Oh,
I'm telling you that's it. He's too far away from the plate. He's reaching for outside pitches. If the pitch isn't on the inside part of the plate where he can use his power for a minute, this is where his power is, in here.
Well,
if he's got to constantly reach for 90% of the swings,
I agree. If
he's
you
gonna
are,
lose that power.
If you're reaching like that, 75%
But even
of
if
your
pitches
power
over the
is,
middle, even if pitches over the middle of the plate, when he hits those pitches, he hits from the center field. He doesn't have the power to put him over the center field.
have you noticed the strike zone is no longer a definable entity? It's everywhere now. Anything that's close is a strike.
Again, what have I been telling you for years about the outside pitches? The biggest problem in baseball. It's the outside corner. Too many times they're calling strikes 2 inches off the plate. Batters don't know. The umpires are on the inside shoulder. The umpires, every batter that's up, the umpire's on the inside shoulder. He has no view of the outside corner. He's basically guessing through experience. And a lot of times when that pitcher's out there 2 inches off the plate, he's calling the strikes because he can't see it properly. Now, if they had something on the outside corner, because now by being on the inside part of the plate, you can see the knees, you can see the shoulders in the inside corner. But that outside corner has been the biggest problem in baseball for years. I've constantly said it, and they're getting more and more problems this year.
and we have the technology, not for anything. I mean, with HD TV and with all of these, different channels have their own strike zones. I mean, you're watching a game, they show you 5 times, and all 5 times you get more mad about it because you're like, come on, that wasn't a strike.
You know the biggest problem, though? The idiots that are running it now. How can they now say, after all these years, that you not only have to catch the ball, but you got to get it into your throwing hand?
Well, that
and
Napoli thing the other night.
That's ridiculous.
That right there, though.
Think of it.
But this is where now review, a replay
Because
thing.
of the replays, they
Because
changed them.
it's the spirit of the game. It used to be you saw the ball enter the glove and that was the out. And
Right.
now you have somebody in slow motion saying, well, it entered the glove, but it didn't hit the back of the glove. And I'm like, what?
No, but you're right. Now you can catch it. You have it in your glove, and you put it in your other hand, and you drop it.
It used to be
It's
a
not
catch.
an out.
A catch was when it went in the glove, and now all of a sudden, the
transfer.
transition. You have to properly transfer it from one hand. What do you got to do next? Juggle?
Well, I'm just waiting for the first sacrifice fly, where they're arguing about, the runner left too early, the ball hadn't he hadn't squeezed it.
Well, they're playing with fire, I think, personally. I think you got to do an all or nothing. If you're going to bring this in, now, let's face it, they have the technology for this now. So you're going to tell me that they can slow it down enough and they can see the ball was in the glove but didn't hit the actual webbing, so it's not an out. But they can't come up and say, all right, we're going to eliminate the umpires, no more balls and strikes, we're going to do it upstairs. And, why not?
They have nothing better to do. When they overturned that thing in the Red Sox game, and I dislike the Red Sox big time.
You don't.
For
You're
years.
real. You like
Well,
them.
the other
Come on.
night,
But look at when they did the
other
tie
night-
at first base.
the other night, Napoli was way off the bag, and Ventura came out to argue. He clearly had the replay. The other thing is, you should have to challenge it on the way out. You have to throw your flag or before you go and have your video guys check everything to say, okay, we want to use our challenger. That would change a lot because coaches would have to make a decision right away whether it was really worthwhile.
Well, what's it going to do when the Red Sox, theoretically, play the Yankees? You got some nice July game. It's a weekend. It's Sunday night on ESPN. You're looking at a 5 3/4 hour regulation game with this kind of stuff going on. I just
Well,
can't even see it.
The other night
going
they
that way.
lost when Xander Bogaerts made a throwing error late in the game. Now, who would have thought the kid who grew up in Aruba, where he never had weather below 75 degrees in a day in his whole life, strikes out 3 times, makes a throwing error, it's 30 degrees. He's probably saying, I wish I were never born.
You're right about that.
He's having problems, though. They say there's about 5 or 6 balls that Drew would have handled early on in the year, but you don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's two schools of thought, though. You say everybody wants to say, well, you can't put the kid in there and ruin his confidence. And then the other school of thought, which I think is the old timer, get the kid in there, because how's he supposed to get experience if you don't give him some? And I don't know if they brought Drew back. Maybe you say, well, Drew's presence, looking over his shoulder, it's too tempting to want to throw him out there. I got a feeling that's kind of Farrell must have said, you know what, let's just give him the job. We're behind him. We know we're behind him. But then, the wink and the nod is we can always go out and get someone else.
Well, I think they're trying to have Scott Boras have a stroke because he keeps holding out Drew and Morales.
Well, that's till the June draft. Once the June draft is over, someone's going to sign.
I know.
him
Well, then you
because
get 14 million divided by 2 because you missed half the season.
I mean, that's when he's going to sign. He's going to sign because then they don't have to give a number 1 draft pick
Right.
to the Red Sox.
Well, it's the same for the Red Sox. If they sign him, they forfeit, in a sense, getting the number 1 pick. So if they bring him back, yeah, we'll give you 14 million, divide it by 2.
Well, they're
Here's
not
7.
going to get it now. No one's going to sign him now. And give him
No,
the
it's
number
only
1.
another month. So,
Yeah,
So-
they'll wait it out. And then if he's not playing well,
Well,
Bring
Middlebrooks
Drew
is the
back.
key. They're thinking, we want to play Middlebrooks, so that's why they're not signing Drew.
well, let's not confuse Drew with Rogers Hornsby
Well,
either. The guy hit 150 in the playoffs last year. He did play excellent
he
defense.
had that one home run he hit, which was a big one. It was his Mark Bellhorn time in the sun. But then he went back to playing, his batting average was what Mark Bellhorn gave you, which was like a 152 with, I mean, really, he wasn't all that much, but he was very, very good defensively.
And Farrell loves him.
Well,
Yeah,
look at Jose Iglesias is out for a year with shin splints. That's inexplicable.
I wonder what Lucchino's thinking now, what else side Ellsbury has had. I mean, I wonder what the Red Sox fans are saying. Are they still happy about the Red Sox not giving him the money?
The big thing, well, you can't judge a trade on 2 weeks of baseball.
Well, you can judge it on the last 6 years.
Well, I
I mean,
over
Ellsbury is one of the best center fielders in baseball.
when he plays, and time will tell over 7 years whether he earns the money. For the first couple of years, I'm sure he's going to be worth
I
it.
think he might have a hangnail or something, or something. His feelings might get hurt. One of those kinds of things. Something. I think they did the right thing regardless, because what we had to go on, you're never going to change. That he had 2 out of 4 years.
In the other years, he was
One
hurt.
was phenomenal. One was very, very good. And then these other 2 were, and it wasn't only, okay, if you said he had a broken leg, you say, all right, well, broken leg, you can't play with it. Or he had this, or there's the mysterious, you get a midsection injury. These guys are out 8 months now.
Well,
You're
that's why he
oblique.
eventually left. No
I'm waiting
matter
for
what.
somebody to die of an oblique injury.
Well, no, obviously there's turnover in the Red Sox medical staff and there's turnover in the Patriots medical staff. We can talk about that another time. Now, you're a double agent if you're a team physician. You're working for the player, but you're working for the team, and who are you really working for? So I don't blame players for being concerned about their own best interest. I understand teams want something for their best interest too. Who knows?
But that was a terrible decision by the Red Sox. But it all started 3 years ago when he got injured. It all started. He didn't want to play for them. Everybody knew he was going to be leaving. They didn't stick behind him then.
But there was
they
a lot of
knocked
talk,
him. They
though.
gave him the dig.
It wasn't only the management. I think we've read enough about
And
the
the
Red Sox ownership, rather. I don't want to say Francona as much. I think Red Sox management, I think we know there's a little bit of the whole double-notch spy going on there that you don't know if you can trust them or not.
Well, Lucchino's an idiot, number
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. And John Henry is aloof. And then Werner only cares about what you look like on TV because he's thinking, wow, that's a half a ratings point. How much should I make? What time is it? We can poke holes in them all day long, but I think it really comes down to, though, is I think it was his teammates. I think, and that's why it got reported. I think it was the locker room. When you got guys in your locker room that don't have your back, I mean, that really has nothing to do with management. I think these guys were kind of saying, you know what, we could really use you out on the field here.
But what people don't understand, they don't look at it the right way, the Red Sox fans. Most of the time, they never do. But in this case, they're losing Ellsbury, one of the best center fielders in baseball, one of the best leadoff batters. The Yankees are using him as a number 3 hitter, which I like because they have Gardner. Not only are they losing Ellsbury, but the Yankees are getting Ellsbury.
If we did
it's a 2-for-1.
If we did a poll right now and said, are the Patriots going to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl this year on ESPN, 50% of the fans would say, yeah, of course they are. Like, what are you thinking about? It's not going to happen. You know, teams don't do that.
Too small a sample with Ellsbury for now. I think time is going to tell if he
No, but it is, to me it isn't, because you know what he has. You know he didn't come up last year. He's playing.
Yeah, but the year before.
He's been here several years.
Well, it'd be like saying Sandy Koufax when he was 29 years old saying, you know, we got to sign him for a 6-year deal and give him $100 million, and then the next year his arm falls off.
What about Lester? I mean, Lester hasn't done great in his history. He's had two good years.
True, but you know something? Look at what he did in the playoffs. I mean, you know, that was the kind of thing. Like, it happens with great players, it happens with good players, but I'd take the guys that can turn it on in the postseason.
Well, one thing you can say about us, we're not always right, but we're always consistent. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Paul Rabel from the Boston Cannons, and you're watching Let's Talk Sports.
Welcome back. Sometimes you hear something and you just can't believe it. Former Celtic Rick Carlisle said that Dirk Nowitzki is one of the top 12 players in the history of NBA basketball. If we want to call him a center, okay, we'll just start at the center position. We'll work from there. Russell, Chamberlain, Abdul-Jabbar, Olajuwon, just 4 right off the top that are not. You can't
Shaq.
You can't even put them in the same league as Nowitzki. Then you get to the more, say middle contemporary players. Magic, Jordan, Bird, McHale, Malone, Stockton, Barkley. Then you get to the contemporary players, LeBron, Durant, Kobe. You can go on and on and on. Nowitzki's not better than any one of those players by a long shot. He is an outstanding player. He did win a championship, but don't talk stupid.
No, he doesn't compare to those players. Elgin
Baylor, West, Havlicek.
Did you say Oscar Robertson?
Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double for a whole season in the NBA. So we can go on and on and on. Now, okay, he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. Everybody gets in the Hall of Fame now,
Yeah, but one
right?
championship with the teams he had some real good teams, some good teammates to play with, too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was the only player and they won just one.
Which is not to say that he's a bad player. He's not a deserving player. And maybe he's the best foreign-born player, but even then you can't say that because that's probably Tim Duncan.
No, I would say when you compare him, I would say he's a very good basketball player.
Right. Would you take him over Patrick Ewing? I don't know. No. So you just go on and on and on. That's just crazy talk. Now, if we want to talk more crazy talk, there's baseball instant replay. First of all, instant should imply it happens pretty fast, which it doesn't. And they're not even getting it right a lot of the times. And now it's creating tremendous controversy as to actually what results in completion of a play.
Like I told you last show, right? It seems like when we talk, a lot of times we're right. Not always right. A lot of people are right. But when we talked about the instant replay, we said they should just have fair and foul balls and home runs. That should be it. That's it. Forget about a tie goes to the runner like they overruled the Red Sox on a play where they called the player out, but then they called him safe.
Well, I thought he was safe anyway.
But
Well, I think part of the solution is if you want to challenge, you have to just challenge. You can't bring the manager out, stall, have the coaches watch 12 different replays. No, you have to immediately challenge. And then what you saw, I'm going to challenge, because that's what the referee saw, the umpire saw. That would create less controversy because the coach wouldn't just say, okay, I'm going to challenge and use my challenge up right now. They just wouldn't. You have to challenge within 15 seconds or 10 seconds of the play happening.
It's not working, and again, I've said it 100 times, maybe even more. The biggest problem in baseball is the outside corner. You laugh every time I say it.
I do.
People say, what is he talking about? This is the outside corner. Pitches are over here. The ump can't see it because he's on the inside. That's the biggest problem in baseball.
Okay, number 3 is going to be goodbye, Rajon Rondo. Rondo He's a student of the game. He's a terrific basketball player. Is he going to be a winning player deserving max compensation from the Celtics? I say no. They've won 20% of the games with him starting this year. They won over 35% of the games that Presti started. I'm not saying Presti's going to be a starting point guard in the NBA.
Can't shoot either.
I just don't think Rondo's the answer. And if you can get something, I'm not saying dump him for 25 cents on the dollar. If you can get something that's reasonable, that you can package him with one of your million draft choices, do it.
Well, you know my feeling. Ainge wants to trade him.
He didn't-
But, you know, it's different because what they're doing is, like, Wick likes him because he's getting the young fans in. The young fans like him because he's a little flashy. The people that know anything at all about basketball, they don't want him. I mean, who wants to watch a team led by Rondo for the next 8 years? I know I don't. I'm not going to turn the TV off if he's the point guard on a team. The guy just can't stand watching him play.
Well, the Celtics were not as terrible as their record. Now, you may say, well, what does that mean? Well, they lost a lot of games by small margins and fourth quarter collapses. I'm happy. You know, I wish they lost those 2 games to Miami so they'd be tied for third instead of tied for fourth and fifth. But they should end up with a reasonable draft choice to figure out what they want to do with it. Now, I don't know that any of these players are going to be the answer, whether it's, you know, Embiid or Wiggins or Parker or Dante Exum from Australia or Randall or Noah Vonleh or Aaron Gordon. It goes on and on and on. I'm kind of intrigued by Adrian Payne, the big power forward from Michigan State. He kind of reminds me of Len Bias, but without being
He's a great guy. You read that story?
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he can shoot and he can run, and he's 6'10", and that's who I want the Celtics to get with the second of their first round picks.
Number one, the Celtics, I just want to see them, Olenek and Bradley are the 2 guys I want to see back. Bradley with a great point guard could really be effective. He needs a great point guard, not a Rondo type, a guy who can play tough defense, hit the open jump shot when he has it. You know, that's what I'm talking, and dish the ball off. You know, you need a point guard who's really consistent with the
Do
shot.
you see Sullinger as part of the solution? No, you think
he's
he
gotta
can't
go.
get in shape?
They got to trade him because here's a problem with Sullinger. He's too big, number one. He cannot block a shot. So you got a power forward who cannot adjust a player's shot. So not only can he not block a shot, when a player goes in for a layup, a driving layup, he can't even make him adjust his shot because he can't get off the floor.
Now, my argument for the Celtics is the number one need they have is a strong interior defense player. That is a shot alterer. It doesn't have to be a great shooter, just somebody who can intimidate people and block some shots and rebound, even if he's not a scorer. So it's too bad they couldn't make that deal for ASIC, but hey, you know, we understand that.
Right, but I'll tell you one thing though, Olenek, I've seen him in the last 10 games.
Offensively, the kid can play.
I'm telling you, he could be another Love. He could be another Love. People are saying they should get Love. I think they have one right there with Olenek, who's a little tall. He's an inch taller than Love. Hits that jump shot. Great going to the basket. A better passer than Love. Don't forget, this is his first year. You look at him in another 2 years, the guy's going to be a machine offensively.
Needs to get stronger.
Yeah, and defensively.
You know, defensively, there's room to grow
But they have
there.
someone with him. And then, again, Bradley, real good with a real good point guard because you don't want him to rely on him handling the basketball much. But he's got that great jump shot off the pass, pull-up jump shot, plays that great defense. If he's with a guard, again, Rondo, that team will never be
Well, Bradley's
great with
only
him.
21, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's come a long way with his shooting. I mean, he's really improved a lot.
Then fill a team. I mean, what you can do this year, you trade Rondo and Green.
Right, Green's got to go,
I mean,
too.
if Ainge makes the right moves now, you never know. In a couple of years, this could be a powerhouse.
You know, I think that if they can get Humphreys okay as a
I'm surprised
six.
they didn't deal him before the.
I know. Well,
Because you would think they want a team needed a player like him. Miami needed a player like him.
yeah, they're stuck with Wallace, so they can't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
You know, but and they also have a exemption of $10 million. I don't know if Bogan's contract is expiring, so that's another $5 million. So they have a lot of chips that they can use to do something going forward. So I think that we should be pretty excited about the off-season possibilities. We should say something about the Patriots. Where do you think they're going? Do you think they're going to draft a tight end in the first round? The word they're talking about now is that Gronkowski's not in any hurry to come back.
And they shouldn't even worry about him coming back early. They definitely have to draft a tight end. They got to get a guy who can go downfield and catch the football. I mean, if they can get a good tight end, I told you what I'd be looking at is a real good tight end they need. Get another offensive lineman and another linebacker. That team would be unbelievable. I mean, and they stay healthy. They don't need it. Don't forget, that defensive lineman they got from the Canadian League, he got injured early on.
Right. It's always about being healthy, and you can never guarantee health in the NFL.
And since our last show, they signed Wendell.
Right.
So now they have Wendell as center again. You have Conley.
And they signed Patrick Chung as
presumably. No, I've always liked Chung. Chung, for some reason, I think he lost the edge with the Patriots. Hopefully he has it back. He's talented. He's a hitter too, Ron.
Well, he had trouble staying healthy. Now the question, there's some talk about moving Ryan back to play safety too. But Harmon wasn't bad.
No, Harmon wasn't bad.
He's got good size, so I don't see the Patriots spending a high pick on a safety.
No, I mean, you have McCourty back there with Chung. You have Harmon backing them up. You got Browner, Revis, Ryan, and Dennard.
Do you think they have enough offensive linemen, or do they have to get another offensive
Well,
lineman?
that's what I was saying. Well, since they signed Wendell now, right? Don't forget they have Cannon and Mankins and Conley at guard. So they got three guards there. You know, Cannon can also play tackle. So if Vollmer gets injured again,
right? Vollmer's, he broke his leg. What can you
right.
say?
So I mean, if Vollmer's healthy, they're the keys. If Vollmer's healthy and Solder's healthy, you have Cannon there to back up any of them. You have him there to back up Conley and Mankins. You have Wendell at center. Conley was a center originally too. So I think if they got one, like say in the third round, they got an offensive lineman with the linebacker and a good tight end, they can win it, Ron.
Well, the other thing, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Wilfork. You know, the owners hold all the leverage. He is re-signed with the Patriots for a deal that's not favorable to him. He basically is going to get $3 million if he makes the team, and then a certain amount of money every game he plays. So we'll see what happens.
Well, he knew he wasn't getting money from anyone else.
Well, right.
Coming off an Achilles injury.
Right, a big guy
32.
like that.
But don't forget, they got your friend there who played well too at nose tackle. He's going to be back.
Yeah,
Salinga. They have Chris Jones, Villano. They did pretty good, and they have Kelly back.
Well, and the guy from the Canadian League.
And the guy from the Canadian League. They're okay at defensive end. You know, Ninkovich. I would think about moving Ninkovich, letting him play more linebacker. Imagine that he was a linebacker. You put Ninkovich, Collins, you have Mayo back, and you have Hightower.
Well, now, obviously they had Johnny Manziel, and I don't know if they had Teddy Bridgewater, and they had some of the big-name quarterbacks that clearly are not going to be available to them unless something incredible happens in the draft. What do you think the philosophy was on that?
Well, I think, Belichick just wanted to get a feel for them, get to know them, give them some information. They were real happy they came in to talk to him and meet a couple of the other coaches. So I think it worked good for both sides.
Well, I'm sure they don't work the players out. It's more of a meet and greet, and they show them film. They probably say, they put up a film and say, what do you see?
And they probably ask him about his tight end.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be there for the Pats. I think he's going to be gone before the Pats. But his tight end's the number one tight end in the country. There's two other good tight ends. So I think I think they're going to have a good tight end there when they pick. I mean, I would love to see him get a tight end because you know how important that is. If you get another tight end who can catch the football, pretty good blocker, I mean, you get that on that offense now, with what they have, that's all they need.
Yeah, I think that, well, they have the kid coming back, I think from, I think it's a Rutgers kid who was Mark Harrison, who had a foot injury last year. Now, they say he's same type of player as Hernandez, maybe a little bigger, but a big guy who could run. So, you never know. It's hard to make projections on players that we've never seen play.
But, I mean, I think that's what they need. I mean, you look at the team, but Belichick, he'll just pick someone that no one even thinks about.
And how about the Jets signing Chris Johnson today? I mean, Johnson, his production's gone way down. To me, you're signing a name, not a guy anymore.
But I have the same feeling when the year they signed Moss, when they went undefeated during the season. I'm getting that same feeling. They're going for it big time.
Well, let's hope so. Now, obviously, we've been remiss in not saying congratulations to the Bentley Falcons for winning the Women's Division II championship. Great win for Barbara Smith. Is that her name? Smith?
Stevenson?
Barbara Stevens from Bentley, who's won over 900 games in college. And National Player of the Year in Division II is Lauren Batista, who we saw help Oliver Ames beat Melrose. So
And who Hannah, what was it?
Hannah Brickley.
Hannah Brickley going up against her and played even with her. Basically outplayed her and did a real good job against her and down at the Garden.
And of course, if we're going to continue in that vein, we should congratulate Hannah Brickley as being named Player of the Year in the NESCAC. She didn't play basketball for 2 years while at Trinity, and then started playing the last couple of years. She averaged 14 points and 8 rebounds, something like that this year, led her team to one of the best records they've ever had and into the postseason. So Hannah's also, for those who don't know, an outstanding student, one of the top students in her class, and she'll be graduating pretty soon with a very distinguished academic and athletic record.
That was a great class that came through with her and Colleen Hanscom. And that team was real strong. They could have won the states. That's a shame. They got beat, like you said.
Now the Red Sox are off to a terrible start, 6-9. It's not so much that they're off to a bad start. They're playing really bad baseball. Now, some of that is injuries, but everybody has injuries. So Teixeira's out for the Yankees. Jeter's been out part of the time with the Yankees. They got no names at third base and second base. So it's not just the Red Sox. Tampa has lost one of their starters.
Oh yeah, Cobb. He's out for the year.
Right. So, Matt Moore.
Oh, is Moore out for the year?
Moore is having Tommy John surgery.
Moore.
So, there's a lot of guys that are hurt, and no explanation for it. And the Red Sox they're not getting any kind of timely hitting at all, and they're hitting, I think, under 200 with runners in scoring position. And Bogarts just got his first run batted in last night. So they've just been very low on offensive production. What can you say?
Well, it's going to be tough. Like you said, everything went right for them last year.
Oh, absolutely.
They still have talent on the team, but when you lose, you start looking at that talent. You say, if Ortiz, and if he's not on the juice this year and he starts going down the tubes, they're going to have a tough season. They won't make the playoffs without Ortiz having a big year. They don't have enough there in the lineup. You're losing Ellsbury. Everybody thinks it was a joke. Why give him the money and all that? Well, we knew that whole story.
Right.
He was gone no matter what they offered him. But you lose a top-notch, leadoff batter there. You're looking at what do they have? But they also have Victorino out.
Well, right.
He'll help him when he comes back.
You don't know, is Daniel Nava a 300 hitter who has a 385 on-base percentage, or is he just a flash in the pan, one-time deal? I have no idea. Carp, last year he had 9 home runs, a lot of timely hits. This year he looks like he doesn't even know how to swing the bat.
Well, you know what it is? Like I was telling this lawyer that I work with, right, that comes to the courthouse. He's 89 years old, and he's the biggest Red Sox fan. He went into opening day. He goes into a lot of the games. As a matter of fact, the last game I went to was with him when the Yankees were in, a couple of years ago. And I tell him, I said, Andy, I feel bad for him. I don't like the Red Sox. The Red Sox are, is huge. He watches the games, stays up all night. I said, Andy, it's like 10 seasons in a year with baseball. Don't worry about it. I said, when the weather gets warm, they win 10 out of 11 games, 10 out of 12. They're back. Everybody's feeling great. So, it's way too early to get down.
There's a lot of interesting teams that should be fun to watch. Everybody in the American League East is
going to be a battle.
Is interesting. Detroit is always going to be tough. And out west, Oakland pieces together things. And Texas is not bad. Seattle's playing better. So more games should be competitive this year across the league, and that'll be a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah, what I'm happy about is that the Yankees are going to be battling this year. I think with the pitching staff they have now.
Yeah, they have good pitching right now. If they get decent bullpen action and they stay healthy too, because they've got some older guys. You never know, but it should be an interesting season.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.